What's going on, Summoners? Welcome back to another ProGuides video. I'm Kangas, and today I'm covering all of the upcoming changes for next patch, and trust me, it's a big one. From item to champion balance and even new skins, we got you covered, so hit that sub button, and let's get right into it. Now, of course, like usual, we gotta start you off with the new skins. A lot of you wanna know what the next cosmetic purchase you can flex with is, and we've got some new crewmates joining our favorite adorable squad already out exploring space. Astronaut Corky, Maokai, Rammus, and Vhagar are all coming out next patch. A prestige edition of Project Z is also in the works. So make sure to check these ones out because I especially love this Vhagar one. But next up, we got some balance changes. First up, we got a nerf to the item Divine Sunderer. After some buffs to boost its popularity, things have gotten a little chaotic, and by that I specifically mean Ezreal is building it and now it's broken. Next patch, Divine Sunderer faces a nerf specifically for ranged champs. The damage is going down for ranged champions, and instead of dealing 12% max HP damage, the item now does 12% if you're melee and 9% if you're ranged, so Ezreal will definitely feel this. That's the only nerf, so moving on, let's talk about system buffs because there's a lot. First up, we have an entirely new item, Anathema's Chains. If you felt like your agency as a tank has been low, well, here's something to help you have more agency in your games. Once you complete this item, you can choose a nemesis on the enemy team. Afterwards, you start building up a vendetta against them, lowering the damage that you take from your target up to a max of 30%. At max vendetta stacks, you also lower their tenacity by 20% while you're near them. With this new addition, you should be able to soak up more damage and create some chaos in fights. The item costs a total of 2,500 gold and also provides 650 bonus health as well as 20 ability haste. So honestly, I see engaged supports loving this item. So with the release of this, it's now as good a time as ever to learn how to play a tank or even a bruiser, so if you're not sure how to play those champs, make sure to hit up a coach on ProGuides.com and they can teach you the ins and outs of laning phase and also how to teamfight as effectively as possible. Next up, we have another new item addition, Hullbreaker. This item will replace Sanguine Blade as the go-to split pushing purchase. It's got two effects, the first being buffing up the player's defensive stats and turret damage, but the second one's a neat one, because it's the same buff but for nearby large minions, meaning that enemy players will have to deal with both the champion as well as a cannon or super minion on steroids. It tentatively costs 2,800 gold and provides 50 attack damage, 300 health, and 150% base health regen. Its first effect will provide 20 to 45 armor and MR to the player and 20% increased damage to turrets, while the second will provide 160 to 135 bonus resistances and 200% increased damage to turrets. Now with mages falling behind AD mid laners and assassins, they're finally getting some love next patch. AP assassins, as well as mages who love spamming their abilities, will especially love these buffs as it will allow them to snowball much harder than before. Luden's Tempest, Leandry's Anguish, and even Everfrost will all have their costs reduced from 3,400 to 3,200. That said, all of the mages in the pool will benefit from these cost reductions, especially ones that need their second item to come online. Now, like we mentioned in our patch preview, Moonstone Renewer is also getting buffed. This buff is rather small, but if you play an enchanter, you'll take it because hey, a buff's a buff. The healing and shielding power per stack is going up from 6% to 7%. While yes, it's small, it'll definitely make a difference in a decent amount of games when you or an ally just manage to get out with a sliver of health. And finally, the rune Ghost Poro is getting buffed. The duration is going up significantly from 60 to 90 seconds, and the reveal duration from 4 to 6 seconds. It's a solid buff, and with a 90-second duration on the Poro, it's definitely worth taking when you need some lingering vision control. Now moving forward, we got the big talk of the town, most important changes for patch 11.13, mobility creep reduction. Stridebreaker is first because it's basically getting a full rework. These changes are intended to be a net neutral shift of power, taking away mobility but increasing your raw fighting power. First up, Halting Slash will no longer provide a dash, but in return it can be cast while moving. The total attack damage ratio is going up from 75% to 100%, and the slow is up from 40% decaying over 2 seconds to 90% decaying to 40% over 3 seconds. Its cooldown is also going down from 20 to 15, and the heroic gate movement speed bonus is going down from 30 to 20 movement speed. That buff to the slow makes Stridebreaker a truly crippling item to deal with if your enemy can get on top of you. The issue now is, will Juggernauts be able to get on top of people without that extra mobility? Another mythic item up for a change is Shirelia's Battle Song, which is built solely around providing bonus mobility for an entire team. Inspire's movement speed bonus is down from 60% decaying to 30% to a flat 30% non-decaying. This is just a straight up flat nerf to bonuses, and there's not much to analyze. Cosmic Drive is next, and it is also getting a flat nerf, as the movement speed bonus is going down from 10 to 30, scaling to 20 flat. In return, the ability power is going up from 75 to 80, but that's definitely not an equal exchange of power. Now we also see the rune Nimbus Cloak up for a nerf. This nerf isn't a giant one, but it'll feel noticeable once it goes live next patch. As you probably know, the movement speed bonus you get varies based on the cooldown of whatever summoner spell you cast. The rune will see a nerf at the highest tier, as the bonus is going down from 5, 20, and 35% movement speed to 5, 20, and 25% movement speed. In most cases, this is just going to make either chasing or running away with flash a little less effective than before. Now another flat nerf is for the item Gale Force. The mythic passive bonus is going down from 3% movement speed to 2%. This is actually a pretty big nerf, especially in the late game. It's rough to see marksman getting nerfed, but it's important to note that other movement speed items are also getting nerfed next patch, so hopefully this doesn't hurt them too much. Now Prowler's Claw is the item receiving what seems to be the harshest set of nerfs next patch. First of all, the cooldown is up from 60 seconds to 90 seconds. The lethality is down from 21 to 18, and its Sand Swipe will only be able to target champions. Its utility, as well as its power, will be noticeably weaker after these nerfs. Now moving on to adjustments that aren't also nerfs, we have Trinity Force first. The attack damage is up by 5, while the movement speed bonus on hit is going down by 5. Fair enough exchange, and definitely better than Cosmic Drive, which traded 5 AP for 10 movement speed. Lichbane's also in a similar situation, as the bonus movement speed is down from 10 to 8%, while its bonus AP is going up by 5. Black Cleaver is next, but I would personally consider this one to be a nerf, even if it's denoted as just an adjustment. The health is going up from 400 to 450, while the movement speed per stack of carve is going down from 5 to 3. This means that the total max movement speed is down from 30 to 18. That's a lot. Deadman's Plate is receiving a massive change as well, as the charge time is being cut in half from 8 to 4 seconds, but the movement speed's bonus ceiling is also going down from 60 to 40. Also, the damage is being changed from 1 to 100 magic damage to 1 to 40 plus 100% base AD physical damage. And Death Stance marks the final change, as the healing on takedowns is going up from 10% to 15%, but takedowns will no longer grant bonus movement speed for 2 seconds. This will shift power away from an accessory stat and instead helps the item fit its theme of survival. So with the system changes covered, let's quickly go over our question of the day. What change are you most excited about for next patch? It's really hard for me because it's either going to be the Tahm Kench rework that we'll talk about later, or the addition of Hullbreaker. They're both massive and I'm looking forward to each of them next patch, but let me know yours in the comments down below. So with all of our item buffs and nerfs covered, let's move on to the champion changes. Starting off with the top lane, we see very few. Stridebreaker is the defining part of the top lane meta, and with a massive upcoming change, it makes sense that Riot wants to keep the chaos to a minimum. We of course expect some follow-up changes on patch 11.14 based on how the items do. That said, we do have one upcoming nerf, and that one is to Riven. Her ease-based shield is going down from 90 to 215 to 80 to 200. She is dominating elite levels of play, and I think that hitting the shield is a pretty cool approach. Using her E effectively can make playing against her oppressive. I mean, how can you even trade at her when she dashes at you with a stun, some burst damage, and also a shield? It's pretty tough, but lowering that shield should at least give players a chance to fight back. That said, let's move on to the jungle. First up, we have a nerf for Rumble. Whether you want to consider this a top or jungle change, I'll leave that up to you. But we're saying jungle since that's where he's most popular now. His W's cooldown is going up from 6 seconds to a scaling 7 to 6 seconds. Also, the movement speed bonus is going down from 15 to 35 to 10 to 30%. I was expecting an exclusive jungle Rumble nerf, but they instead gave him an honest, direct one instead. Riot had planned on hitting mobility creep this patch anyway, and yeah, Rumble doesn't get a pass. And it's a bigger nerf than meets the eye too, because Rumble doesn't have any dashes, so he relies on his W as his only tool to assist him in chasing or running away. Next up, Lee Sin received a number of buffs this season, and he's slowly been getting scaled back after becoming too OP. Another nerf is coming his way, and I'd bet he wishes he could see it coming. His ease damage is going down from 100 to 260 to 100 to 220. This is a massive nerf to his mid to late game, but he's still gonna be fine in the early game, and he'll still remain a solid pick. Olaf has been crying Viking tears somewhere hidden where no one can see him. That is, unless you're one of like the 5 people that still play this champ. Nowhere nearly as strong as his early season self, his win rates have not been very impressive after the nerfs. Admittedly, the nerfs were harsh, and he's getting a buff next patch. Unfortunately for him, it's pretty minor. His health per level is going up from 93 to 100, and this won't make a significant difference. But hey, an extra 100 health in the late game definitely doesn't hurt. Finally, we have a buff for Viego. Jungle Viego, that is. His Q's minion healing is going down from 100 to 50%, and in return, his E's bonus movement speed is going up by 5% at all ranks, so from 20 to 30 to 25 to 35. His E's missile speed is also going up from 1000 to 1200, while the range is up from 700 to 775. Dr. Mundo is up for a buff, but that was actually postponed for a later patch. I also want to mention that the intended buff is for his jungling specifically. Our analysts were surprised that he was up for buffs altogether, but it makes sense now as he's underperforming heavily in the jungle. But that'll cover the jungle, and we'll actually head to the bot lane next because we have no upcoming mid lane changes. The price reduction on items is probably enough work, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens next patch. So the bottom lane changes next patch are for the low tier marksman. Crazy to think that Xayah and Aphelios are actually those two. While Xayah does see a little bit of competitive play, it's nothing like her glory days of being pick or ban alongside of Kai'Sa. In light of nerfs to Gale Force and also the fact that she's underperforming in solo queue, she's getting a nice damage buff. Her Q damage per dagger is going up from 45 to 125 to 50 to 150. Especially when you hit both daggers, this is a meaty mid to late game buff. It's something that she definitely needed, and hopefully Xayah can find her footing with it. Even after his most recent buff, Aphelios is still giga weak. He still sits at a below 47% win rate, and the emo boy's cries for help have finally been heard by Riot. His passive AD bonus is going up from 4 to 24 to 5 to 30, while his passive lethality bonus is up from 3.5 to 21 to the new 4.5 to 27. This is actually a pretty big buff because any marksman can appreciate more flat damage. And the fact that his lethality is also getting increased is huge, as that will help him win duels against other squishies, notably other marksmen, way more consistently. And that'll wrap up the bot lane changes, so let's finish up with supports where we see our biggest champion change. That's right, it is finally here. We've been talking about this for months now, and it's just coming to live next patch. Tahm Kench rework is coming. First of all, his Q's damage will remain the same, but its slow is actually going down, and the duration as well from 3 to 2 seconds. The actual strength of the slow is still to be determined, but it's definitely less than before. However, landing Q on an enemy champion will now heal Tahm Kench for 10% of his missing health. And if the enemy champion already has 3 stacks of an acquired taste, Tahm will also be able to devour them while your tongue is mid-air. But his devour is now his ultimate ability, so this extra power comes as no surprise. Next up, his W will now be his Abyssal Dive. You'll dive down and plunge out of a target location, dealing damage and knocking up nearby enemies. Hitting at least one enemy champion will refund some of the cooldown, and just like before, you can bring an ally who is devoured. His E looks unchanged for now, but we'll have to check the numbers next patch. Finally, like we said, his ultimate is now his Devour. When cast on an enemy with 3 acquired taste stacks, it'll deal a decent chunk of damage that also scales with their maximum health. Enemies can be devoured for up to 3 seconds, which makes it an absolutely massive team fighting tool. That's a really long form of crowd control, and remember that you can devour enemy champions with Q now as well. However, he will still be slowed by 40% and grounded during this time. And when you cast his ultimate on an ally, they'll gain a sizable shield for 2.5 seconds after being spit out. If you pick up an ally, Tahm Kench will be grounded and slowed by 10%, but will still be able to cast his Abyssal Dive. And that covers all the upcoming changes for patch 11.13. Really hope you enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts though in the comments down below, and also check out the description for a link to join our Discord. It'd be great to see you as part of the community. Until next time, as always, best of luck on the Rift, stay hydrated, and I'll see you next time.